In this doubles lesson, we're going to cover how close you should stand to the net. So this is something that I see club level players make mistakes on all the time. They'll be out of position in terms of their vertical movement at the net. So they'll be either too far back and let the ball drop too much to their feet when they should have made contact way up here, or they'll be too close to the net when the opponent has a volley and they won't have any time to react. So in a second, I'm going to show you some examples and talk through this a little bit more. But first, I want to go through kind of the theory and how I like to think about your position at the net in terms of how close you should be to the net versus the service line and even further back to the baseline. So a lot of coaches will tell you, you want to stand super close to the net. If your partner's serving, you're on offense, you want to stay super close to the net. And I think that's true, but I think that answer lacks a little bit of nuance. So this is all very situation dependent, and it's also dependent on your skill set and your reaction time. So I'm going to start with situation dependent. So if my partner has a first serve, I might stand pretty close to the net because this is likely going to be a pretty weak return. Now, if they miss their first serve, depending on my partner and their second serve, but you'll see this a lot at the club level if they have a weak second serve, I will take a few steps back because this return is more likely to be a good return. They're going to make contact earlier. They're likely to hit it a lot harder. So I might have a little bit more of a defensive volley. So I might take a few steps back after my partner misses their first serve to buy myself some more time. And what this comes down to is offense versus defense. So when you're on offense, you want to be closer to the net. And when you're on defense, you want to be further back, closer to the service line, or sometimes even behind there. And your ability to recognize that is going to continually improve as you play more doubles matches. In terms of skill sets and reactions, this is going to be very specific to you. So I'm somebody who doesn't have super quick reactions. When I play spoons in cards, I'm always get last. Any type of slapjack card game, anything like that, I'm always last place in that sort of stuff. So when I'm at the net, if I'm super close and this player hits a really hard forehand at me, I need time. I'm just not, I don't have very quick reactions. So some players can get away with this if they have quick reactions, but what I like to do is start a little bit closer to the middle of the service box when my partner is serving, and then I'll get a little bit of forward momentum. And if I see it's a slow one where I need to move forward, I can do that. If it's hit a little bit harder, I have a little bit more time than if I'm super, super close to the net. So you want to consider that for yourself and determine, do I want to stay a little further back and wait for that slow ball to move forward? Or am I good enough to where if the ball comes at me with a lot of pace, I can react quickly enough? Another thing you want to keep in mind as you kind of move around the net is your momentum and your balance. So when you're on offense, you're going to be moving forward, but with all of your volleys, you want to really make sure you're balanced. So you don't want to rush forward and be off balance while you're hitting the volley, because then you're likely to miss it in the net or miss it long or not hit it where you want to go with the volley. And then if you're on defense, you want to be moving backwards a little bit, but that doesn't mean turning and retreating or shuffling back as fast as you can. You want to be real methodical with it, and we'll look at a few examples here in a second. So hopefully that makes sense in terms of being close to the net versus the service line. Again, this is all going to be situation and then skill set dependent, so you have to determine that for yourself. But let's look at a couple of examples from Jamie Murray, who has very quick reactions at the net. He plays very close to the net. And then Bruno Suarez, who also plays close to the net, but stands a little bit, maybe a half a step or a step back from Jamie. And hopefully these examples will help illustrate what this should look like for you. So we're going to look at a few points here from Bruno Suarez, who is serving at the bottom of the screen, and then Jamie Murray, who is up at the net as the server's partner. So you can see Jamie starts about halfway between the service line and the net, maybe a little bit closer to the net. And then as the serve goes in, his first movement is forward, and he is very close to the net on this ball. So this is one of those balls that you'll see a lot of players at the club level be too far off the net, and they'll let it drop, and it'll drop down to their knees or their ankles, and they're hitting a volley from somewhere around here and having to lift it up over the net, which gives the opponents plenty of time to get to that ball. Instead, you can see Jamie moves forward and makes contact just after it crosses the net, which is at its highest point, and it makes it a much easier volley that he can hit down on. So I'll show you that point again in full motion there. So we'll look at another one here. This is another first serve from Bruno that he lands down the tee. And that's another one that Jamie is super close to the net. So let's play that back in slow motion. Again, he's about halfway, maybe a little closer to the net than the service line. Gets a little bit of forward momentum, actually a lot in this case. Takes a split step around the net strap area. And then this ball is actually moving really slowly. So this is one that if he were somewhere around the middle of the service box, somewhere around this area, it would definitely get down to his feet. But because he's so close to the net on this first serve, he's able to make contact just as it crosses the net at its highest point and hit kind of a little bit of an awkward inside-out forehand volley for him because he is left-handed. So let's look at a couple of second serve points. So what do we know about second serves that's different from first serves? Number one, the serve is going to be a little bit slower, and it's going to make it a little bit easier for the returner to get a good crack at the return. So a lot of times the return might come back with a little bit more pace, at least the majority of the time. So in this case, again, Jamie's starting about halfway between the service line and the net there, and then gets a little bit of forward momentum. But because this is a second serve, he doesn't go all the way to the net. He kind of split steps forward and then back maybe a quarter of a step or so, just prepared to defend. And I think this is probably something that is just kind of ingrained in him at this point. I don't know if it's a conscious move, but I think he can see at this point that the returner is turning to their forehand side. So he knows this ball is probably going to come with some pace because they're on balance. They must have called a body serve here, and that's kind of in the opponent's hitting zone. So what he does is takes that kind of quarter split step backwards because he knows he needs to buy himself more time. If he had split step forward again and been a little bit closer to the net, somewhere around here, he would have had less time to react to this volley. But instead, he shuffles a little bit backwards, has time to defend this, and then the opposing net player here is a little bit too close to the net and has no time to react to this volley. So that's a good second serve example. We're going to look at one more second serve here. So this is a missed first serve. And then the second serve, again, he's going to start with a split step forward and then kind of shuffle sideways to cover this wide serve. And I want you to notice that he actually doesn't go all the way to cover the alley because it's going to be such a low percentage shot. He actually split steps kind of in the middle of the service box here. So you can see his feet here. And he is pretty close to the net on this one. So the difference is this was more of a wide serve, and he can see the opponent's off balance and jammed. So he continues his forward momentum to be in an offensive position because he can recognize very quickly that this return is not going to come back with the same pace that kind of on balance forehand did. And then again, you can see the returner's partner is just a little bit too close in this scenario. You generally don't want to start moving forward like this until you see that returns by the opposing net player. And in this case, it does not get by the opposing net player. So he has no time to react. It's going right at his head, and all he can do is really duck, and he loses that point. So I'll play this one again in fast motion for you. So missed first serve. And then just a quick reaction volley with forward momentum. So on all of those, especially as the server's partner, you're going to be playing a lot closer to the net. And this applies when you're in a rally as well. So when you're on offense, you want to stay closer to the net. And the key with this is as soon as you see a slow ball, like we saw in those first 2 points, don't let the ball drop. So this is a first serve from Jamie with Bruno at the net. And it looks like they called a wide serve here. So you can see Bruno has a little bit different style. He stands a little bit further back, especially with his right foot there, which is probably closer to that service line than the net. But still, some of the same principles apply. He builds a little bit of forward momentum, split steps forward, and then as soon as he sees it's a slower ball that's going to start dipping, he rushes forward. So right here, he recognizes this ball is going to be slow. I need to take it as early as possible at its highest point, and he steps forward and makes contact just as it crosses the net. So that's the one thing I really want you to take away from this. As soon as you see the opponent off balance hitting a slower ball, I want you to move forward to take it as it crosses the net rather than backwards and letting that ball drop. And it makes for a very simple, easy volley. It also creates more angles for you. So as you take the ball much closer to the net, you're going to have an easier angle. So this is the last one that we'll look at. You can see this is another first serve down the tee here. Bruno again is getting forward momentum. And on these first serves, he doesn't play quite as close as Jamie does. Now this is going to be really player specific. So for myself, I like to do it a little bit more like Bruno, where I'm a little bit further back from the net, still certainly closer to the net than I am the service line. And part of the reason for that is I just don't have super quick reactions. So somebody like Jamie Murray and some other club level players, if you have particularly good reactions, you can play super close to the net and just hit a reaction volley. But for me, it looks like at least here for Bruno, you're going to play a little bit off the net and wait and see what kind of ball you get, and then move forward from there. So you might have a defensive volley. You might have an offensive volley where you can step forward like he does in this case. We're going to look at actually one more point here. Your side is not in a good position. So Bruno gets a relatively easy ball up top. That's actually pretty difficult. I take that back. This is kind of a full stretch ball that he reaches up and gets. The returner's partner again is moving forward before seeing that it's by the net player. So he gets in a very awkward position. He should know at this point they're on defense and should be kind of trying to shuffle back. I know he's trying to get out of the way of his partner so that his partner can hit a good shot, but he should try to shuffle back, at least get to somewhere in this area around the service line so that he has more time to react to any volleys. But he doesn't do that. He stays right in the middle of the service box and just has no time to react to this ball. So really, when you recognize in this spot that you're going to be on defense, you should probably start shuffling kind of back in this direction. So recognizing when to move forward and when to move back is super, super important to being a good net player. Hopefully these videos helped you better kind of understand how to play at the net, how close to be, how you should be moving forward and backwards. If you want to become a smarter doubles player and start winning more matches, then join the Tennis Tribe Doubles Strategy newsletter. Every single Thursday, I'll send you a new doubles tip or tactic that you can use in your very next match. And when you join, you're going to get a free guide on how to play with more confidence and start dominating at the net in doubles. My name's Will. I'm the founder of the Tennis Tribe, and over the last 5 years, I've worked with players at every level of the game, from USTA 3.0 players all the way to Division I college programs, as well as some of the top 10 doubles players in the world. And on Thursdays, with this strategy newsletter, I share that knowledge and advice that I've gained over the years with you. So to sign up, you can go to thetennistribe.com. And again, you'll get that free net play guide when you join.